And now a word from our sponsor, Lux for Less Travel. Luxury cruising listeners know an exceptional journey is about more than just the ship. It's about the moments that stay with you long after you return home. You've heard me say before, the right travel advisor can absolutely make or break that experience. If you want exclusive amenities, preferred pricing, generous onboard credits, and VIP touches you won't find booking on your own, it's time to connect with Lux for Less Travel. Sylvia isn't just an advisor. She's a seasoned world traveler who has explored Europe's grand capitals, sailed French Polynesia, stood before the wonders of Egypt, and experienced unforgettable African safaris. With more than 40 cruises across lines from MSC Yacht Club to Silversea and Regent Seven Seas, she knows luxury cruising inside and out. But what truly sets Sylvia apart is her commitment to seamless planning and thoughtful extras that elevate your trip from wonderful to extraordinary. Before you book your next voyage, reach out to Lux for Less Travel, because true luxury should feel effortless and incredibly rewarding. Head to the show notes for information on how to contact Sylvia and get started on your next adventure.
It's time to talk about luxury cruising, from suite so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and once again, we have one of our favorite guests for the Luxury Cruising podcast. We have Bradley with us, and I'm really excited about this topic because Bradley's going to talk to us about a cruise line that we really don't hear about very much in North America and Canada. I guess Canada is North America, but we'll say North America at all, and that is P&O. And he traveled on two different P&O ships on two different types of suites. And so we're going to get kind of a P&O primer, and then we'll talk about their suite class and what they offer and maybe don't offer. So Bradley, please remind the audience anything you want them to know about you.
Well, as everyone probably knows now, I'm Bradley, and it's quite simple. I am madly in love with cruising. Anything and everything to do with cruising, then I'm there. Simple as.
Amazing. And we'll definitely talk about your TikTok, Instagram, YouTube channel, but I just love watching your content. It always makes me smile. Even when I saw you in the waiting room for the recording, just seeing you made me smile. So if anyone hasn't followed yet, please do follow. It's just fun. It's so much fun. So back us up and just tell us about P&O in general as a cruise line.
Brilliant. Yeah. So P&O is consistently British. As we were saying earlier, it's pretty much the sister company to Princess. So you have Princess Cruises and we have P&O Cruises, all owned by the Carnival Corporation. But it's our sort of a stable of Britishness, should we say, in which they've been around for many years. They have many different ships from very small up to very large. And that's the comparison that we're going to do now. It's very much a line in which is good quality, good pricing for different points, different categories of cabin, good solid sort of service, food, entertainment. Every ship is different, should we say, to a point. And yeah, it's just something that's been a sort of a staple through traditional cruising for many years. I remember when I was a child, 26 years ago, when I first went on my first P&O ship, should we say. And I know my grandparents used to go on P&O. So it's been through the generations, multi-generational cruising for us as well. And it's been a company that's always been there. It used to be at the top of its game. It really was. P&O was at the sort of level of cruising back then. But it's now changed. It's now a completely different demographic of individuals that go on the cruise. But cruising's changed in general, as we all know. It's gone from mostly the older generation and those who could afford it to now being universal for every sort of demographic to go on there. So P&O certainly adapted with the times, but has gone more down the route of a more affordable line of cruising, should we say.
Yeah, and you said it's more akin to Princess, which we would consider a premium line. over here. And do you agree? Do you think it's a premium or more on the contemporary Norwegian Royal Caribbean level?
Yeah, it's more of contemporary medium range, should we say, in which you get what you pay for. Yes, there is add-ons that you can pay for. And yes, if you go in a suite, you do get some benefits, nowhere near the benefits of other lines, should we say, which we'll talk about. But certainly, it's nowhere a budget cruise line. The prices can be budget because some cruises and some deals that they offer are fantastic. It's cheaper to go on the ship than it is to stay at home, and keep the lights on, especially in today's world. But yeah, it's a good mid-level cruise. It's something that, as I said, you get what you pay for, and you certainly get your money's worth, should we say.
Yeah. What's the general vibe of their ships?
This is a good question because P&O, as I said, the smallest ship that they currently have is one called Aurora, which is my favorite. She is a classic ocean-going vessel. She's not an ocean liner, but she's very much one that's got that one main promenade deck. So she's just got that one deck that goes all the way around the ship, should we say, with the open promenade. She has the main atrium, and then she has, I think it's probably about 12 decks in total, which in today's, size of vessels is nothing. A couple of thousand of passengers, even under 2,000. She's a lovely, classic, opulent vessel. A lot of mahogany, a lot of wood, a lot of artwork, should we say, and little rooms like there's one, bar, which is all sort of old furniture and fireplaces. Of course, not working fireplaces, but that sort of ambiance, should we say, and that sort of traditional bygone era of cruising. And then you've got the ultra-modern, should we say, the Iona and the Avia, who are huge vessels that are sister ships, but they have different looks and feels to them to a certain degree. And they cater for multi-generational cruising, for anybody and everyone. There's something to do, different bars, different restaurants, different entertainment venues, many different categories of cabin. It's more floating city, should we say. So P&O cater for anyone and everyone, and their ships are catered for those who, if you want that more sort of traditional contemporary style cruising, they've got the ships for that, the adult only ones as well, because that's what they're good for. They have adult only ships. Aurora, Arcadia, they're adult only ships. And then a lot of them then are family orientated vessels that cater with the kids clubs and pools and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a very universal outlook on it with their ships.
Especially the newer ships like the Iona. I've seen a lot about that one, but I don't know off the top of my head. Do they have some of the sort of like bells and whistles that we talk about, like the rock climbing wall and like a roller coaster and giant butterflies?
Yeah, it doesn't have that. This is where it's a bit different. The Royal Caribbean Americanized, if that's even a word, the razzmatazz, should we say, of the American sort of vessels where it's the rock climbing walls, the ice skating, the big Broadway shows. Yes, we have that entertainment on board, but it's more of a British sort of theme to it, and they're excellent. West End sort of style performances. They're really good, really diverse, fantastic. Do they have a lot of areas for kids? Yes, they have their pools, their splash pools. They have open deck games, big chess pieces, and games and table tennis, but nowhere near Royal Caribbean. They don't have the rock climbing walls. They don't have ice skating. None of that. They have a dome, which is in the middle of the vessel, which they have the acrobats and different sort of entertainment there, but it's not something that you can do yourself, if that makes sense. Like there's no surf rig or anything like that. So yeah, they haven't. I've got a funny feeling that they might branch out into that, but yes, they haven't done that as yet. That's just specifically the American lines, should we say.
Great. Awesome. So now take us to the suites. What suites were you in? And just tell us, compare and contrast the two based on the small ship and the big ship.
Absolutely. So first of all, then we'll go with Aurora. She is one of our favorite ships, one of the first ever ships that I ever went on. A classic, traditional, gorgeous ship, should we say. Now, her iconic suite is called the Penthouse Suite, and that's exactly what it means, a penthouse. Massive mahogany wood spiral staircase, should we say, up to the master bedroom, a massive lounge with windows at the front of the ship, the beaming light coming in, 2 balconies, not big balconies, but on the ground floor and the sort of first floor, There's two. There's a grand piano and there's a library one. We were lucky enough on our voyage to have the both of them. So we had the piano Penthouse Suite and the library Penthouse Suite. Just iconic. It was something, the story behind it was, my late grandmother, she always wanted to stay in them. And we could never afford it and we could never get in one. And of course, as you get older and you start making your own money and things change, and we still couldn't do it. But it got to the point where she passed away and I said, look, I want to tick off everything of the list. Because as you know, we started cruising because of my grandmother. And I've said I'm always going to try and tick off her bucket list. And a voyage came up and it was 2.5 years in the making. And as soon as it came out, within 8 minutes, we'd booked via our agent. And 2.5 years later, then we had the 2 penthouse suites and the second suite down. So we had there's 2 different variations because the suites are the same. But yes, it was something special because no other ship in the P&O fleet has a penthouse like it. And will never have it again because her sister ship, Iona, which is now being sold, she didn't even have it. It's just the Aurora that has these suites. And they were just iconic.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, then you have Iona, which we went on in March, and one of the big suites on the ship after the ship this time. So the penthouse is at the front on Aurora. On Iona, right at the back, gorgeous suite, much more modern, but on one level, nowhere near as big. And I shared that with my parents. But as you saw, there's 2 rooms, there's sliding doors, which are great because I had my own room, my own toilet, my own entrance, my own balcony. Fabulous if that's what you're looking for. Because we've got big families, and cruising can be expensive. If you've got lots of people, it works in both ways. As you know, if you have one cabin with lots of people, it works out cheaper. But if you're looking to go on the suites and they're charging full price, then that can work out very expensive, as you know. So we had a good deal where the 3rd and 4th passengers were 50% off. So it worked out as, fantastic deal. The suite itself, excellent, fitted 4 people, marvelous balcony, butler service, fabulous marble bathrooms, really nice. But as I was saying, not a lot of benefits with the P&O suites. That is something that we're getting to now. But yes, that's the contrast of the 2 suites. They're very, very different, but there are different sort of levels of suites within that as well on different P&O ships.
Got it. Yeah. So tell us about those amenities. Like what did or maybe didn't come with the suite?
So as we've been talking about lots of times on this podcast, in the luxury market of cruising, then when you get to that stage, a lot of is included. A lot of it, yes, there may be some upsells and there may be 1 or 2 restaurants that, you need to pay extra for, but everything is pretty much included. With P&O, you pay a lot of money for suites. Okay, yes, you can get deals, but you pay a lot of money. Now, the only main benefits that you have butler service, but everybody has a different outlook on a butler. Should they do this? Should they do that? Do I ask for this? Do I ask for that? It's lovely to have. And yes, he's very good and he can arrange things for you. And he's always there if you need them and you can do certain things. However, with P&O, you get priority boarding, should we say. You get a welcome on board lunch or buffet, whichever ship you're on, with free alcohol. Because remember now, P&O is a pay-as-you-go line or you buy a drinks package like many other cruise lines. So no drinks package included, no Wi-Fi included, no special restaurant, only for breakfast. So you do get a specialty restaurant for breakfast, which is nice, but you don't get it for lunch, you don't get it for dinner, no special deck, nothing like that. So nothing like the other lines, so MSC Yacht Club, the Haven and NCL, Princess Sanctuary Collection, all of that sort of different, nothing like that on P&O. That is where they falter.
Not even on the new ship.
No. So on Iona and Avia, what you get is the priority boarding, you get that little welcome on board lunch, you get your breakfast every morning in a specialty restaurant, and, a few upgraded things within the cabin. I can't list them all, but nothing like no Wi-Fi, which I think is awful. I think if you're paying that money, you should have a basic thing like Wi-Fi included. All right, not so much a drinks package, but you should get some sort of inclusion. You get a bottle of champagne or Prosecco embarkation, which, let's be honest, is quite normal for, any sort of luxury line or any suite. But apart from that, there isn't any benefits at all, which I think is wrong. And I really do, especially when you're paying that money.
Especially because it sounds like you're in the highest end suite. Like if you're in an entry level suite, I would say okay, well, but if you're in the highest level suite they have, there should be some, at least Wi-Fi and drinks, like a soda
Absolutely.
package. Come
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad you agree. It got to the point where, like on that penthouse one in Aurora, should we say, we did have something they called the special touches, which was you had 2 liters of alcohol. So you had a liter each for each passenger, which is lovely, which is great. But then when you went to order your mixers, so I have a Sprite with my gin, my mum has Diet Coke, you'd think then, oh, if they're giving it the liter, you'll have a few mixers. They were all charged, little things like that. And I just thought, come on, you're paying thousands and thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars, and little things like that, like Wi-Fi. Room service on P&O isn't included. You have to pay. But in suites, you do get it included. So they charge you. This is where it's tricky, because if you don't go and look at your bill the last day and it's still on there, then you end up paying for it, which I think is wrong. You've got to ask the question. They're not always sort of open with you, should we say. And that's what I don't like. It should be clearly explained. People might have had different experiences, of course. I'm not saying that. But P&O are one of the companies which I will openly say are falling behind when it comes to their suite class. And of course, everybody's different. And of course, they're not a luxury line. So I'm not expecting all bells and whistles. But if you're paying that much money for a suite, I generally believe there should be quite a few inclusions, e.g. a basic Wi-Fi package. Come on, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about throughout the ship, like the performances or anything like that? Was there any reserved seating? Anything like that?
Nope, nothing at all. As I said, probably the main benefit you have is the fact of a butler and priority embarkation and that little, welcome on board lunch with the drinks. But apart from that, no other priority on the ship. You do get priority tender access cards that if you've got a tender port, but they never work. I don't know why they give them out, because you're not going to go down to the tender and then look at the queue and push past people and then give them a ticket. If they had a separate line for suite guests, I'd understand, but it makes you feel you don't want to push past all these people. But no priority seating, no reserved seating in restaurants, nothing like that. Nothing at all.
Wow. Yeah, that would be disappointing.
Very much so.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Give us a sense from a percentage rate, because I think you sailed Princess Suite class.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I love it. Yeah, fantastic.
So just give us a sense in terms of like percentages of price for a Princess Suite class where, you've got your medallion and maybe you've got some sanctuary access. Is it more expensive, less expensive by like 2/3? What do you
Put
think?
it this way. First and foremost, I'll say this openly. Princess Sanctuary Collection Suite class blows P&O out the water. Straight and simple. And I would pay much more for it because of the amenities that you get. Simple. There's no airs and graces in me. I'll say it as it is. Again, personal preference. I understand, everybody's different. However, this is where it gets interesting. You can get some ridiculously good deals on P&O for suites if you catch the right ship and the right time, which are unbeatable. But then if you want to go at school holidays or cruises that are popular, put it this way, my parents went for 2 weeks in August on Aurora, which is like the same class ship. I think it's a Vista class as like Sapphire Princess and Caribbean Princess, that sort of a grand class. And they paid £10,000 for 2 weeks in the suite, right? Over August, which when you think height of summer, I get it. But they could have gone on a luxury Explorer cruise for the same price,
for the same.
but everything included. When I say 10,000, now they had to buy a drinks package and everything like that, and the Wi-Fi, so it came to 10,000. Well, if you go and look on Explorer and you go on a 2-week cruise, you could easily get it for 10,000 and less. And
Easily.
That's a 6-star ship. And it's just, to me, there's no comparison. If you had the money, of course, everybody's different. Everybody has different budgets, and I completely understand. But if I had £5,000 to spend on a 2-week cruise or a week cruise, and there was a suite on P&O and a suite on Explorer or even Princess, hands down, I'm going Princess or Explorer. But yet again, we say that, and what makes me laugh is you get the die-hard P&O loyal members like myself, because I've done 30 cruises on P&O. I can't say any different. The suites sell out first. That's what makes me laugh. P&O have got this thing where they have guests like myself who love the ship so much and the brand, they specifically get it for a specific cabin number or a suite number because they love it. And their world cruises, the suites go first, the mini suites go first. You're talking 40, 50, 60, 70,000 pounds not including
Yeah.
drinks.
And you still have to pay your Wi-Fi for,
Yeah.
120 days or however
Don't
long
get me
it is.
started on that. I just think that, we've got a thing over here called Premier Inns, and they're very cheap hotels. You walk in the lobby, then you get free Wi-Fi. You go to the supermarket now. Even my car's got
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. But then I spend thousands of pounds to go on a cruise, and then I got to pay. The prices are extortionate for Wi-Fi. And it's just wrong
Yeah.
on so many levels.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it almost seems like I would equate it to the people who love Disney. They know they're paying more. They don't care. They just want to go on Disney.
You've hit the nail on the head. And exactly like me, with these penthouses, for example, on Aurora, because there's 2 of them and only 2 in the entire world. And I hate to say it, but within the next year or 2, I'm going to say that Aurora is going to be sold. She'll be following her sister, Iona. And it's going to be a case of they have their loyal customers, and the first 2 cabins that sell out are the penthouse. And it makes you laugh. But then I'm a hypocrite for saying that, because what did I do? I'm the one that had one too, So, yeah, it's something they've got. It's like when somebody has a hold on someone. These penthouses appear, they have a hold on people. And I've been there, so I can say open-heartedly, yes, I've done it. I wouldn't do it again because I've done it. It was special. It was amazing. Would I pay the price again? Absolutely not. But it wasn't for that. It was a bucket list moment, so I could raise a glass to my grandmother and say, right, Nan, we've done it. And it was wonderful. And I'd done an article on it, and it was fabulous. And a lot of people have read it and seen it, reminisced with it, because a lot of people do multi-generational cruising. And yes, It was just wonderful.
Yeah. And that is one benefit to it. And that's what I think is a benefit to Suite Class on any contemporary and even premium line, is that maybe there are parts of your family or people in your family who can't afford that, but still want to be part of the celebration.
Absolutely.
And so you get in on one of those deals, and they're like, look, all we can do is an inside cabin, but we want to come and join you in the suite when you do your remembered celebration.
Yeah. And that's what my parents used to do when we were younger, because we could fit in the suite, the 4 of us, when me and my sister were young. Because when you get older then and you've got a brother and a sister, you don't really want to be sharing beds. And of course, you get into teenage years. Well, it worked out better because we didn't always go to breakfast because we were teens. So we never made that special restaurant, should we say. So my mum and dad would have the suite, and we would have an inside cabin opposite. Of course, the way it works is one adult used to have to go with one thing. But you know what it's like? You just swap around. But that's what it was, because it was perfect. What more did you want?
Yeah, I'm doing that over New Year's. Because my kids don't like Coastal Kitchen on Royal. And I'm like, why am I paying for a suite for you? So my husband and I are in a suite, and we're in a balcony.
Damn right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're on the same ship. We'll meet you somewhere.
We're next door. And Emma, my oldest, will be 18. So I'm like, peace out, kid.
All the best. Bye-bye. We'll come past the buffet. We'll see you with some cookies and milk.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, I really appreciate anything else about P&O that you think the listeners should know about.
Because there's a lot of American listeners, and as you said, North American. They'd be very surprised because it's a British sort of line, even though it's owned by an American parent company. Try it, because it's always good to try different things. Just remember that if you are going for a suite, do not expect any benefits that you do on the Americans. Go for it, because the cabins are lovely. But remember, with P&O, just like a lot of other, should we say, apart from Royal Caribbean, I have a lot, but a lot of lines have different classes of ship. Be very careful, because not every suite is the same. So do your research. That's all I say. And be prepared that you're not going to get what you normally get if you go on these different lines. But give it a go. P&O are one of the oldest lines out there. Was the Peninsula Oriental Line. That's what it's called. But their heritage, they're steeped in history. And yes, certainly give it a go. Be surprised, but not getting as much bang for your buck, as we say. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially in the suite, unless you go. I mean, I definitely want to try it. I've got a cousin who lives in Liverpool. She went on it, and it looked absolutely gorgeous and fun. And so I definitely would want to check it out. Plus, it's nice to get a different perspective.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the ships are all different. There's loads of the same ships, but as I said, the class of ships are all different. Do your research. Look at the reviews. Don't listen to every review, because everybody's review is personal. People now want to agree with what I've said because they've got different. Of course, absolutely. That's what the world is about. Free to say whatever you want, and you all have different opinions. But give it a go. And I have a lot of American friends who physically come over here to do the British Isles cruises and will pick P&O because they do that itinerary. and they know that it's close to Princess. And some that go on, they absolutely love P&O because they're not drinkers, so they don't have to buy the package and they can pay as you go. So it suits many different people, you know? So
Yeah. And it seems like a really culturally immersive experience, right?
absolutely.
Like doing the British Isles on a British line, there's probably going to be a large percentage of British people. It's like,
Absolutely.
go and be immersed in.
Absolutely.
That's another thing too, just in terms of like culturally on P&O. Is it, when we talked the last time about Cunard, you know, a lot of it is very quintessentially British. Do you feel the same way about P&O? It's just like people are like dressed a little bit differently, like they're still doing afternoon tea, a lot of the same. You said the entertainment was still very more West End.
And it is. P&O used to be very, I'm not going to say very formal, but they used to have formal, semi-formal and casual. This was years ago now. Now it's just a celebration evening. So on a 7-night cruise, you'll have 2 nights where you can dress up. Every other night resort casual, you know, or whatever you fancy. But 2 nights out of a 1-week cruise, there'll be celebration night, which means gents can put on a tux, ladies can put on a dress, you know, or a cocktail. Well, you don't have to, but it's recommended that you do. But it's very good because a lot of people do, and it's great. You immerse yourself in there. You look at each other walking past. Everybody's dressed the same, and it's lovely, and it gives you that little buzz. Not everybody likes it, but P&O cater for that. You know, you don't have to do it, and there's different venues that cater for it. You can go to certain restaurants that means that you can be casual. You can go to other restaurants that more people dress up, and bars and all that sort of thing. It's not set in stone that you have to wear it. You know, you're not walking around in shorts and t-shirts, should we say, for an evening. But yeah, it's very accepting, should we say.
Yeah, good to know. Awesome. Well, what's on the agenda coming up? What trips do you have?
Well, in 18 days' time, we're on my first Azamara cruise, so I can't wait to come back and talk to you about that because that's going to be excellent. Yeah. We're going all around Spain and France. It's an intensive itinerary, 9 nights, different port every day on Azamara Quest. So I cannot wait for that because that's another luxury line that's ticking off the list. So when I'm back, I'll come back on and we'll talk everything Azamara.
Exciting. I can't wait, as always. Well, thank you so much again for being here. To listeners, thanks again to you too. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising.
Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.